Geometry begins with a discussion of some basic definitions, and from these basic definitions, we build on to get to the more complex concepts. The first definition that we want to get to is that of a point. A point is simply a location in space, right? And we typically represent points in geometry as dots like this. A point has no dimensions, doesn't have any thickness, it does not have any volume, has no mass. It only has location, right? So this is a point. If we take the concept of a point and we extend it infinitely in a straight line in both directions, we end up with what's called a line. So we represent a line as being straight like this with arrows at both ends. The arrows indicate that the line goes on indefinitely in both directions. So this line goes infinitely in this direction as well as infinitely in the opposite direction. So this is a line. A line can also be thought of as an infinite collection of points that extend in either direction. From a line, if we take part of a line and do not allow it to extend infinitely, and we cut it off at a particular start point and end point, then we have what is referred to as a segment. So a line, because it is infinite in length, it cannot be measured. So it has no thickness. You can't measure the thickness of a line, nor can you measure the length of a line. A segment is a part of a line, and although you cannot measure the thickness of a segment, you can measure the length of a segment because it is defined as the distance between the 2 points that contain it. So we can measure the length of a segment. We cannot measure the length of a line. Next, we have what is called a ray. A ray, you can think about it as half of a line. So it is a line that does have a definite start point or definite end point. So it starts at a single point and it extends indefinitely, infinitely in one direction. This is called a ray, all right? Rays, you also cannot measure rays because although they have a definite start point, they extend infinitely, so you cannot measure a ray. And like lines and segments, rays also have no thickness, no mass. They only have position. We typically can define a ray by the position of 2 points within a ray. And then finally, if we take 2 rays and we connect them at the same endpoint, then we have what is called an angle. All right? So we take 2 rays and they share a common endpoint, but they're going in 2 different directions. This is how we define angles. All right? And we'll talk a little bit more about angles in the next video, but the point that the 2 rays of an angle share is known as the vertex of the angle. All right? And that's about it. These are the basics of geometry. From these basics, all other things shall build.